Okay, Shauner has told me to watch this, and he reacted to a terrible video I sent him, so I I must return the favor, I suppose. The OGGM. I know nothing about him. GM tips, be prepared, version 2. Let's watch it.
Good morning and welcome, and what a lovely spring morning it is. Just look how gorgeous it is here at Site B.
It was nice here today
Spring
as well.
is here momentarily. Let us enjoy it as we go for another walk.
Got a coffee.
Where I talk and walk and you listen to the
I wonder if he looks like a
nonsense that
crazy
comes out
person.
of my mouth. You're like a captive audience. Blah, DM tips. Yeah, DM tips.
Like, does that woman down there, I think that's a woman, I can't really tell, does she occasionally look back and is wondering, is he still there talking about Dungeons and Dragons? Tell me he's not still there.
And I know we've
Do you need help? Is he still
done this one
following
before,
you
but
right now
always
as we
feels
speak?
like it needs to be repeated.
Blink
Not
twice.
that I am the end-all, be-all, single best expert on gaming. In fact, I'm an idiot. I rarely know what I'm talking about.
That's a refreshing
But in
level
my
of
40
honesty.
some odd years of playing.
That's a refreshing level of honesty. Usually it's, I've been playing for 870 years, since before dinosaurs walked the earth. I have DM'd all manner of game, and I am an authority figure on the subject. And then they say some shit they read in a box text in the 1980s that was probably some editor half asleep on, don't stab your players with knives when they show up to your house. That's the genius of their GM advice.
This ridiculous game and listening to other people and watching other people. I think I have a semi-decent perspective.
Okay,
So when
semi-decent.
people ask me the question like, what's the best DM advice you can give, blah, 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 and all the permutations of that question, it usually boils down to, for me anyways, there's like 3 answers. You know, the first answer is just start small. The second answer is be prepared. And that's the kind of, that's the one I want to explore.
Those ideas seem kind of at odds with each other. When you start preparing more and more and more. It's called feature creep. Because, you want to prepare the whole world. I had a player end up doing that his first time GMing. He built a whole world and then totally burnt himself out on things because he realized, well, now we get to play in it, and holy crap, it's going to take us forever to get to everything. Because if you prepare that much, you're going to want to get to that much. But I haven't watched the video, so let's see.
Today, the be prepared. And there's 3 subcategories for be prepared, and we're gonna go through them, okay? Oh, and the third is trust yourself. Just trust yourself. That's the third one. Okay, I forgot to say the third.
A little platitudinal.
Is just have faith in yourself. So
Somebody
be
has
prepared.
been ripping
1,
donuts here.
read the damn books and read the module.
And what?
If you're running an adventure,
Oh, yes.
read the adventure, know the adventure, be prepared to run the adventure. If there are encounters in the module or adventure or whatever you don't understand, make sure you've read up on them before you start playing.
Yeah, that's important. God, it's infuriating to somebody. Oh, you get to this ferocious dragon and it's breathing fire and... Oh, no shit. It's breathing ice and... Yeah, you don't want any of that. You don't need to have everything memorized, but you do need to have read through it, right? Don't read through 30 pages of something that's 60 pages long, and then you get your players gasp and move faster than you were expecting to, and you actually get to the 31st page, and you go, oh shit, I don't know what's going on here.
If there's a treasure, and it says, don't just pause middle of the game to roll.
Oh yeah, that's
20 times
terrible.
on the random treasure generator because you didn't take the 5 extra seconds to.
I think we're all guilty of that too.
Figure out the treasure ahead of time. Morning. Roll the treasure. Roll the treasure. Now, obviously, you can't roll the treasure for every random encounter, but have some preset treasure blocks that you can just rapidly put out, so you don't have.
Um, just have loot in an area that makes sense for it to be in the area. Um, if you're going to use random tables, make sure the random table makes sense, or you are at least good at improvising an answer as to why this holy sword that once belonged to a paladin of some righteous deity is now in the dump where they're fighting a bunch of oozes that keep the sewers clean. You
Have to
know?
spend time. Read the module, read the adventure. Even if it's an adventure you wrote, read it. Read the rules. Be prepared for the encounters. Be prepared for, what treasure that the encounters have. Be prepared if they choose to talk to the encounter rather than fight the encounter.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a no brainer. Always be generally mentally prepared for your players may come up with an answer they don't come up with. Shauner says something that I've always done, which is think of two answers. And this is actually a technical writing technique as well. When you're asked to edit for style, so to make a document look a certain way, give what the customer or your boss asked exactly. Give something that looks slightly different, and also give something that's totally off the walls. A lot of the times they'll end up picking the one that's just totally not even close to what they asked for. Likewise, players will often do something that you totally didn't imagine that they were going to do. So, that's more be mentally prepared. Don't prepare so rigidly that you want to pull your players down this railroaded path, because sometimes we get into the mindset of, well, it's not a railroad because they have two or three options here. Well, no, you've just created a junction in the railroad. It's still a railroad.
Just give yourself the permission to read, to understand, to be prepared ahead of time. I mean, really, it just breaks down to be prepared ahead of time. Nobody wants the game to suddenly stop while you spend 20 minutes looking something up.
Yep.
You should know that ahead of time. Make sure your players are also prepared. Give them time. I mean, we only play once a week for like 2-3 hours a week at our age, so
Oh,
an hour of that playtime should not be players and the DM arguing over what spells they have, how much experience points they have,
yeah.
whether a bow can be shot in water or not. I don't know if I have that equipment. You've got an entire week and you've got access to the internet. Ask those questions before the game, after the game, or during the game. Make sure that once the game officially starts, all your players are prepared. They know their spells. They know
I think you meant to say not during the game.
their hit points. They know their armor class.
Yeah, this is great advice. I had a player once that was nightmarish. He would show up week after week, and this is before I vetted my players. It was just, I was desperate to play a game that was not 5th edition. This was 2017, 2018. And I was just like, please God, give me something that's not 5th edition. I wanted to give this guy a lot of chances. I wouldn't have given him more than one. He wouldn't have ended up in my game in the first place at this point. He did not understand the the attack mechanic in Pathfinder. Every single time he wanted to attack something, he would have to have it re-explained to him. You don't need to memorize the whole core rulebook if you're just a player, but you do need to know what the core mechanic of your game is and how your character's idiosyncrasies work.
Know what's going on. If they've leveled, make sure they level before the game starts. Again, you want to be prepared.
And come up with a fallback plan. If they didn't level up, well, they just go in. They didn't seek out any special training or anything. They look around, like, what the hell happened to you guys? It's like, what have you been doing last week? If there's no time skip and it's just a level up as like a, sort of a video game level up or a very sudden realization, he's a slow learner. He'll get his level up next time. Not the end of the world.
So that the story doesn't break down. I mean, imagine watching a movie. Okay, unless it's a comedy movie. Imagine watching
Does your city have one of these take a book, leave a book things? Mine does. What's up with his fire hydrants? They're so weird looking.
A movie. Okay, unless it's a comedy movie. Imagine watching a movie. Ooh, 3 books.
I shouldn't have rolled it back.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging it.
You know, your favorite movie.
Okay.
And in the middle
That's
of
tough
your
one.
favorite scene in your favorite movie. Morning. It stops. And the main characters just start talking to the director because they forgot their lines and they don't know if their blaster has 3 or 4 shots, or if they forgot to, whatever.
You've started watching, and then 20 minutes in, you realize, oh god, it's the director's commentary, and I'm watching a Ridley Scott movie. Kill me.
And then the next 20 minutes of the movie is listening to these actors and the director talk about stuff that has nothing to do with the movie, and then the movie starts again. And you're like,
Yeah, I'll out myself here. I used to be that guy. Not too long ago, I'll go, actually, a greatsword can thrust. Well, see, if they couldn't thrust, why would they put points on the greatsword?
wait, what? So make sure your players are prepared. Okay? And the third and most important one is a direct opposite of the first one. What? No, wait, what? So if the first one is be prepared, read everything, know everything, have everything planned out ahead of time, well then rule 3 is give yourself permission to make shit up.
Yeah!
Give yourself permission to tell yourself it's okay if they do something you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Because even if it's the most
mentioned
strictest
that
of
already.
railroad adventures with a clear, definitive beginning, middle, and end, there is a 89 to 100% chance your players will still find some way to circumvent that and to do something that
If the players know they're in a railroad like that, they'll try even harder to get around it, in my experience. Even people who are not, into the 3D, 4D roleplay space, which is the vast majority of people, because it's a term made up by our little corner of the internet not that long ago, they'll try to break things, When people are in a video game, if they realize the game wants them to go a certain direction, they'll start jumping in the corner trying to clip through the wall.
nobody counted on. But you're gonna do what with the what? There's nothing in here on that.
There's a principle of game design which you can basically look at an analogy of if golf had no rules, everybody would just pick up the ball and put it into the hole. No rules other than how to win condition, of course. People will find the quickest, easiest solution to the problem. And in a railroaded game, often there is some reason that the quickest, easiest solution that you'll come up with immediately isn't the case. Oh, we can't do that because the Demon Lord is immune unless we get this MacGuffin. We can't do this because the queen is unmarried and she only has daughters. You can't do that. There's some convolution there. And that's how you get the question asking. That's going to, well, could we do this? Could we do Y? Could we do Z? So, yeah, make sure before the game starts your players know, yes, you can do Y. Yes, you can do Z. You can do whatever you want. Do what your character would do. There's just going to be consequences for it.
I guess I'm just gonna wing it. Give yourself permission to wing it. You cannot cover every single solitary possible thing that they're going to do in this scenario.
This crazy guy.
So don't freak out. Don't table flip. Don't lose your temper. Just...
Oh yeah, Bear does that. Oh, shots fired.
Go with it. Open your mind, your imagination, and just run with it. And if they take the adventure in a completely different direction that you weren't expecting, that's great.
Yeah, that's part of the fun.
Their excitement. It shows their investment.
Yeah. I would much rather have players that end up taking me in a direction that, oh, we're playing a totally different game than I had. We'd we'd had a session 0, we'd all agreed on what game we're planning on playing, and then just, some weird stuff starts happening, and we're playing a totally different game, but it's still a good time because, we're adapting to it, and the challenge of adapting to it is part of the fun.
It shows that their brains are clicking and working, and okay, so that wasn't what was planned, and I don't know how you got to the conclusion that the cook murdered the king, especially since there is no cook. And
yeah, but now there is. Now there is a cook, right? And that's why I don't really like having pre-planned solutions to a lot of these investigations. Max and I talked about that a little while ago. It's important to give a lot of leeway to these people, right? The characters, as much as you, the GM, are narrating the world or creating the world, the players have eyes on their characters. If they say they hear, see, listen to, know about a cook, there's probably a cook. Well, this guy's just crazy.
I never mentioned a cook, but I'm gonna run with it. Give them.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Give them that. Give them that. Give yourself
at
that.
least
Don't
that.
Hold
There can
yourself
be
up
a
to the
chef.
standard that you have to be as good as some guy who's been running for 50 years. You have to be as good as Matt Mercer.
If you're doing everything so far, Shauner, I'm disappointed. This video is refreshing. I was expecting this to be torturous.
To be as good as Matt Colville. You have to be as good as the OG GM. You have to be as good as Bro SR. You have to be as good as this YouTube DM or this YouTube DM. No, you don't. You just have to be the best you can be at that point in time running the scenario.
A man is not equal to himself yesterday, to quote Thomas Sowell. Be better than yourself yesterday. At least that much.
Because you need to be prepared, but you also need to be prepared to throw all your preparations to the side and run with it and just let that flow go. Let that interactiveness go, because that's when you're riffing off each other and all the players are working and you're working together to take the story to its planned ending, and you get to grandmother's house and you give her the medicine.
Well, not a planned ending, but maybe expected ending. Goal. Not a planned story's ending, but achieving the character's goals. Or definitively failing to achieve the character's goals. Then you get a story after the fact. You don't want to set up the end, right?
Everything's fine. Or a completely different ending where, all right, so you're going to run off with the cook because you think he was framed. All right, let's run with that. Where are you going to run off to? Because there's a bunch of people chasing you with the cook. By the way, I never mentioned there was a cook. But okay, this cook now exists, and you're running off with her.
Well, you don't want to ask. You don't want to ask where they're going. If they're running off and they don't say where they're running to, they're running blindly. They're running. There's a wall that shows up. You're starting to get to the edge of the city and the walls are popping into view. The streets are getting congested and narrow. A guard pops out from around the corner. He's blowing a whistle. He's waving to other guys. There's a bunch of dudes with spears. Somebody's got a bag and a loaf of bread. He's flailing. You bump into him. Now you start describing your actions more carefully. Okay, I'm running past the guard. I'm going to duck under a spear. Try to get the guys tangled up together. Okay, and then everyone bounces off with each other. The cook is like, what the hell? I didn't even know I was implicated in a murder. He's just clueless. You're just yanking him along. You finally get out of the city. He's going, what the hell, man? What? I just baked bread.
Let's see where this goes. And maybe I can fit some of the adventure back into this. And that goes to something I've said before hundreds of times. You can move stuff, right? That's part of being prepared, and that's part of reading the adventure.
You can move some stuff. Don't move buildings. People will notice. Okay, move buildings if the building's movable. If it's like supposed to, you're supposed to walk outside and go, was that church on that side of the street or on that side of the street before? I'm pretty sure that church was on that side of the street before. That's weird. Uh, that can be an okay thing to move. But you don't want to have a church suddenly sprout up in front of the street earlier, and then people are going to start asking questions like, what? We didn't see this like 200-foot tall cathedral last time. Why didn't you describe that earlier? Oh, because it wasn't there earlier. Right. Maybe that's something they would have interacted with if you hadn't moved it. So, characters can move. Objects, well, smaller objects can move. Somebody can, the MacGuffin is sitting in a solid place at one time. Nah, some character, the player characters dick around for long enough. Well, some treasure hunter goes, picks that up, pawns it off. By the time the characters get there, well, now it's an investigation. Track down where the hell this thing went, because it's not where the king said it was.
You can take a counter 16A and move it.
Oh, yeah. Encounters can move.
16A is the most important encounter in the story, and it contains the MacGuffin to move the story along. But they're not going there. Move it. Just move it.
Well, I think that's ignoring the. You're treating a symptom and not the root of the problem. Do they know there's a MacGuffin? If they know there's a MacGuffin and they're actively avoiding going to get it, why? That's a sign that the players don't care about what the game is about. They don't care about the story that you've written. And when that happens, that's a sign that, like you said, you need to be prepared to let go of your preparation and go, they're not interested in that? Chuck it out of the way. Or instead of moving it, make it clear that it's a problem that somebody else has the MacGuffin. Let's say this MacGuffin is just a powerful sword, a really strong sword that you need to kill this demon lord. Well, let's say because the player characters haven't been going after it, now some random mercenary gang is using it to just kill random passerby for their money and stuff, and now you've got an interesting third party in here. It doesn't have to be totally black and white. Now, well, the thing you really should need to kill this demon lord is stuck in the hands of some robber baron that's enforcing a hierarchy, and he doesn't really care about these demons, but maybe you can go over there and convince him, hey, you're not going to have anybody to rob anymore, man, if you keep just killing everybody but ignoring the demons. Something like that, right? That's... just think that far ahead. Think as far as, I've got a MacGuffin in my story. What happens if they don't get it? If they miss it? If they ignore it? Are there ways to solve the problem without the MacGuffin? I like it when the MacGuffin is just the easiest or preferred solution to something, but it's not the only solution.
Reskin it. Give yourself the permission to wing it. Okay, they're supposed to meet the priest and something, but that's not happening. How can I reskin the priest?
The priest got killed, so
I need to get
his assistant
the same
shows
basic
up,
plot
a
devices
friar.
Incorporated in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not the way I was expecting, but that's okay, because I've given myself the freedom to believe myself. I've prepared
Or they pissed off the church, so the priest is talking to another adventuring group now, and the party overhears the conversation. And it's like, what, MacGuffin? Why is he telling these random people? We just saved the town. And they saved the town by, killing half of the civilians and the demons in the process.
Myself that I know the whole story, and I know the rules, and I know what all my NPCs can
Oh, well, you don't want to know the whole story already. Then what are you playing for?
do, and I know what all the characters can do, and they're all prepared, so we don't have to spend 20-30 minutes arguing over torches or levels or whether that can happen.
The only real-time an argument I can see being justified popping up in the middle of the game is dying because somebody read a rule wrong. If you know that that's not how a rule goes and a GM ends up killing your character, then I can see arguing, but then you'll still get into the awkward part of the GM going, I know, this guy's rules work differently because he's a thing I wrote. Goodbye, dead character. um, you don't want to run into that. But, yeah, you definitely don't want to be arguing over, God, torches. Something so mundane.
Or not, or how many spells I have or don't have. No, we're all ready, we're all going, we're all clicking. And now they've done something that I didn't expect. But that's okay, because we're running with it. And maybe I can find some way to Lego fit this encounter back in at a later point. I know I can do this if it needs to be done because I trust myself and
well, why does it need to be done, right? What are the consequences of it not being done, right? I know I need to wake up early in the morning on Saturday to go to a deed of arms in Tulsa. If I were GMing, I can't move Tulsa, Oklahoma closer to Stillwater, Oklahoma, right? I would just allow the players, me, to suffer the consequences of not waking up early. You didn't wake up early? That event passed. Now you have a lower reputation with the guys there. What the hell, man? You said you were going to be here. Yeah, I know, I slept in.
I've prepared, and I understand the encounter, and I understand my players, and I understand the basic story. I don't have plans. I don't have adventure plans. I have adventure ideas. My idea for the adventure was X.
Okay, that's different. That's different than what you've been saying. I hope that's true. I hope this one's true, and you're just mincing your words a little bit because you're walking.
They're choosing to go a different direction. There are still beats in X that I can still use. There's still things that I think are cool that I could probably throw in, and maybe I'll save this for later. Maybe we'll never revisit it again, but at least I know
motion sickness warning.
And maybe somehow, despite all their attempts to the contrary, they get themselves back on track and they end up where they needed to go anyways. So there's no...
Yeah, sandboxing in a railroad or in a rail car. It's possible.
No real bad ideas. Again, as long as you've prepared and as long as you've given yourself permission to fuck up, to make mistakes, to wing it.
I think everyone does that. Maybe not to wing it, but people don't even care that they fuck up in this hobby, in a lot of hobbies.
But to always have that, at the end of the day, it's still your story. You're still in charge of the world. You're still trying to tell this series of events in some format, and they're enjoying it and interacting with it and responding to it.
I was about to say, he's been walking for a while. He's starting to get out of breath here. You don't want to be telling your players a story necessarily, but I think the way he's describing things, I think he may just... I haven't seen any of Mr. The OGGM's games. You don't want to be telling your players a story, right? I mean, consider that part of your prepared material that you can be ready to cut. I suppose what you could have is you could have a prepared story that will play out if the players do literally nothing, but you don't want players that are doing nothing at your table.
They're the tools that make the world work, but it's still your world. And again, if you're prepared to answer their questions before the game starts, if you're prepared to tell...
It's your world and the players are just living in it, man. I mean, yeah, that's technically true. But I find if you abuse GM fiat too much to just go, no, you can't do that. Or, yeah, you can do that, but I'm going to change what you... Oh, you run up to this guy and hit him with your sword? Oh, well, that won't kill him. So what you do actually is you run up to him and you start taking his helmet off and you shove your sword down his throat and
Make sure you're all up to date because
you
I
don't
don't
want to do
want to
that.
break the game for 20 minutes because you don't know how many spells you have or you're not sure whether you leveled or
Yeah,
not.
you said that
Okay?
already, man.
That's discussed before the game or after the game or in the week
I
between
repeat
games.
myself too
I
sometimes, though. So
prepared, so I know exactly how much treasure this encounter has. I prepared, so all my
get a
players are
gimbal,
ready to
man.
go, and I prepared
iPhone
myself
13.
on the off chance that the OGGM decides to talk to the monsters. Like instead of fight them, I've prepared myself in
Guess it
case
depends on what the
Susan
monster
decides
is. You can do that
the
sometimes.
party needs to follow the stream downriver, even though the adventure doesn't cover that. I prepared myself to respond if Eric decides that the cook
Got a lot of
needs
those
to be saved, or that Jay decides, oh no, the cook was the murderer and we need to stop the cook, even if there was no cook. And this happens. This happens. I'm not making that up.
That's good that happens.
What blacksmith? This happened.
Lots of people's
They're
games
like,
that
the blacksmith
doesn't
was the
happen.
murderer, and I was like, there is no blacksmith. I never mentioned a blacksmith.
Though-
Where did you get blacksmith? But somehow, something I said convinced them there was a blacksmith, and I could have just pulled up the reins. But no, I ran it. I ran with it. I said, fine.
Yeah, no, you don't want to go. No, you're fucking crazy. There's no blacksmith. What are you talking about?
There's a blacksmith, and I ran with it.
And that's how you get
Didn't take
you
that.
get these interruptions with like, oh, okay, what is there in the town?
time?
And now you have to pause everything.
I
You have
just
to show them a
reskinned
map.
another
You know,
NPC.
whatever.
I changed some encounters around. It still ended up working in a weird way, and that's what's important. So that's my GM advice for today.
I would say overall solid. I'm almost disappointed, Shauner. I've been slowly sinking down in my camera because my camera likes to do this, I've noticed. The little rubber retaining hook on the back has been losing its stiffness. So eventually, I'll be down here. And I won't notice it. Alright. That wasn't too bad. Yeah. Be prepared, and be prepared to throw away your baby whenever your things don't end up going exactly how you thought. Fair enough.